This time we're taking a look at Chang's Bird-of-Prey. It's the new Klingon expansion. And we'll get right in and take a look. There's our Klingon Bird-of-Prey dial. Pretty much the same as all our other birds of prey. 3 come about in there. Lacking the 190, but you have the every 2 maneuver, every 3 maneuver, and a 4 forward in there. Kind of entertaining. They still use the wings down version in the picture, but the model that came with this one's actually a wings folded up version. There you have your maneuvers. It's standard to all the other birds of prey. 290s, 390s in red, and a 3 come about in there. Nice maneuverable ship, not exceptionally fast. That's our named Chang's Bird-of-Prey. Interesting note, this one is listed as a Klingon Bird-of-Prey, not a Burrell class or Cabort class like the previous birds of prey, making it its own unique class. We have 4 attack, 1 agility, 3 hull, 3 shield, 1 tech, 2 weapon, and a crew upgrade for 22 points. We have our standard Klingon evasive maneuver, target lock, cloak, and sensor echo. And our special action is if you attack with torpedoes while cloaked, you do not flip your cloak token over to its red side. Representing Chang's Bird-of-Prey from the movie where it could fire torpedoes while cloaked. Definitely a cool ability. Gives you a reason to run torpedoes, really. There we have our generic Klingon starship, and again listed as a Klingon Bird-of-Prey, not a Burrell class or a Cabort class. You lose 1 shield and 1 of your weapon upgrades for 2 points less. For captains, we start off with the man most people bought this ship for, is Chang. Captain skill is 7, it's pretty respectable. 1 elite talent for 4 points. During the activation phase, if your ship is cloaked before you move, you can perform an additional sensor echo action with the 1 maneuver template as a free action. If you do so, you may still perform a normal sensor echo action after you move during your perform action steps. Really nice thing, gives you an exceptional amount of maneuverability. The special one he gives you has to be done with the 1 maneuver, but your normal one that you choose can be done with the 1 or 2 as normal, or 3 if you have whoever that guy is that gives you that ability. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But definitely the extra maneuverability really makes him a threat. Next up we have Gorgon. Captain skill of 4, 3 points. As an action, you can roll 3 defense dice. For each evasive result, place an evasive token beside your ship. You cannot perform an evasive as a free action this round. It's a gamble. It gives you the option to get up to 3 evasives for a single action, but at the same time you could roll none. So definitely a gamble. Interesting though, I see him being more used for the Admiral. We have an Admiral version of Gorgon in this pack. Gives you +1 to your captain skill, which will push Chang up to a 8, which is very nice. And for 3 points here, you get that ability as a fleet action. I see that being more useful as you're not wasting your actual ship's action to do so. Unless he's on the ship you're using it on. But anyway, you get the idea. Having that as a fleet action is a little bit less of a gamble. Next up we have Kurla. Captain skill of 3 for 2 points. Each time you defend during the roll defense step of the combat phase, you may choose to roll 2 less dice, but add a evasive to your result. Costs you 2 dice, but gives you a guaranteed evasive. Depends on what you're going to need. The nice thing is you do it during the defense step, so you get to see what the attacker has already rolled first. If you only need 1, or say you have an evasive next to your ship and you only need 2, then doing this pretty much guarantees you're going to block it, whereas rolling is that chance that you might not. We have our generic Klingon captain. Captain skill of 1 for 0 points. What would a Chang expansion pack be without some of his famous quotes? So as our elite talents for this, we have Cry Havoc. Apparently they couldn't fit the whole thing on there. For 5 points. As an action, if you're cloaked, you can discard this card to remove your cloak token and flip all your shields back to their active states. You are no longer considered to be cloaked. During the roll attack dice step of the combat page, you gain +2 attack dice this round. You cannot roll defense dice this round. This upgrade can only be purchased for a Klingon captain. It's the one time you can purposely lower a cloak and raise your shield in the same turn. And then you also gain the +2 attack dice. At the cost, with this ship, you're only having 3 shields and can't roll defense dice. You're only losing the 1 agility, so it's not that big of a deal. I see this getting more use on something along the lines of the Negvar or one of the larger ships with more shields, giving you that bonus attack at the cost of putting your shields back up can definitely help. On the same term, if you don't have any enemies that can shoot at you, definitely worth getting the bonus attack dice. Next up we have the game's Afoot, which is 4 points. If you initiate an attack while cloaked against a ship that does not have your ship in its forward firing arcs, during the roll attack dice step of the combat page, you may discard this card and gain +1 attack die for that ship for this attack. If you do, after you complete the attack, you can immediately perform a sensor echo as a free action. Again, another way to get some amazing maneuverability. I see this getting more use than the previous one on this type of ship. With this, combined with the named ship, combined with General Chang, the amount of maneuverability that you can get is just amazing. For crew, we have Afoot, which I'm sure I pronounced wrong. 5 points. As an action, you can discard this card to target a ship at range 1 to 3. Disable your captain card and the captain's card on the target ship. Neither of your ships may attack each other this round. Has its uses. Not sure about disabling your own captain, but if you needed to take somebody else's out, maybe put this on a ship with a generic captain anyway, so you're not losing anything. Can see that working. For weapons, we have standard photon torpedoes, 5 points. 5 attack, range 2 to 3, requires a target lock and a disable, and you can convert 1 battle stations into a credit, and it can be fired from front or rear arc. Standard photon torpedoes, useful with a rear firing arc. Still not a big fan of torpedoes in general, just the way they work, unfortunately. We actually get 2 copies of the photon torpedoes. For tech upgrades, we have the prototype cloaking device, 6 points. When attacking while cloaked, you may disable this card before rolling any dice to keep your cloak token from flipping to its red side. If you do during the modify attack dice step of the combat page, you may place an auxiliary power token beside your ship and choose any number of your dice and re-roll them. This upgrade can only be purchased for a Klingon Bird-of-Prey class ship. This comes in combination with the ability that's already on the ship to fire torpedoes without cloaking. The dual photon torpedoes that come with the ship are nice too. The big thing with this one is if you decide to fire your main weapon or you're using the non-named or some other Klingon ship, you can use this to re-roll dice in addition to a torpedo, where normally, since you're spending your target lock to fire the torpedo, you don't have that option to re-roll. This gives you that option at the cost of an auxiliary power token. It can be useful. I see it more for the torpedo type thing than anything else, since it is limited to the Bird-of-Prey class ships, which is this one or the named version of this one. So, being said, that's probably the best use for it, but it can be used with the primary weapon as well, and basically free rerolls without the need for the target lock. So, Definitely a useful card. As for the rest of the stuff you get, you have your auxiliary power and critical tokens, 3 shields, your cloak and evasive maneuver. There's a reminder token for Cry Havoc, I believe it is, and a reminder token for Afoot. We have a disable token for your torpedoes. Oddly enough, it only came with 1 disable token, despite the fact that you have 2 torpedoes. Kind of odd, but you have plenty of extra disable tokens laying around at home, I'm sure. We have our Fleet Action and Admiral token there. The additional rules card that explains how the Admirals work. I know I didn't cover that, but everybody should know by now. If you're not familiar with how the Admirals work, you can check out the Enterprise refit video, and I explained in detail how they work towards the end of the video there. Our mission this time around is to be or not to be. It's a 2-player mission, requires a planet token and some 7 mission tokens, which also don't come with this, but you have them left over from your starter set. It's a slightly biased 60 point Federation with 2 ships and a 40-point Klingon using just the ship from this expansion. Haven't actually played it, so I'm not exactly sure what you're trying to do. I'm sure it pertains to the actual movie from where the ship came from. Always fun to have more missions. Someday I will get to playing them all. For the ship itself, there's a pretty good amount of detail as with the previous Bird-of-Preys that we've gotten. Of course, none of it is painted or brought out with highlights or anything, so a good wash will make the ship look amazing. It is slightly different than the normal Bird-of-Preys. The biggest and most noticeable difference is the angle of the wings. They're almost flat. And the ship itself is more in a flat green, where the older ships came in this gold and had a little bit more coloring to them actually. But you can see the wings there in the lowered position, where Chang's are in the raised position. Other than that, I mean, the main pieces are about the same. Definitely a nice wash will bring out some of the detail and maybe some highlights around the engines there to give it some look. Fine the way it is, but anybody who wants more detail, definitely, as with any of the other ships, painting it will make it look a lot better. There we have Chang's Bird-of-Prey's base. See the front and rear 90-degree firing arcs. And the generic Bird-of-Prey with the same. And on here, as I mentioned in the other video, the Scimitar and this ship do not have the front-facing chevron on the base, which tells you which way to put the base plate on here and which way to actually mount the ship on. And it's kind of funny because the original rulebook references those, so I'm not sure why they took them off. But they were on the Defiant, which came out in the same wave. All in all, we have another nice addition to the Klingon fleet. I really like playing swarms of birds of prey for Klingons. I think it's very thematic, it's fun, and if you can squeeze 3 bird of prey and then 1 larger ship for backup or whatever into a fleet, it's a lot of fun to play around with them. This gives you another option for that. With its special ability and some of the other cards, you get a decent torpedo platform. Not a huge fan of torpedoes, but definitely with the abilities this ship has, give you a chance to run one of them feasibly and still make it playable. Between Chang and a couple of the other cards in here, you have amazing options for maneuverability, letting this be probably the most maneuverable of all the birds of prey that are available, and definitely giving the Klingons some unexpected moves that your opponent's going to have to think twice about, and making it stand out as being a little bit different than the other 2 classes of birds of prey that we have. Definitely a nice, if you play Klingons, it's a must-have. Aside from that, there's a lot of Klingon only or this ship only type of upgrades. You got standard torpedoes, which are nothing spectacular, And if you're not into cross-factioning and you don't play Klingons, not a huge reason to pick this one up. But definitely, if you're a Klingon player, this is like a must-have to add to your arsenal. Between Captain Chang and a few of the upgrades, mostly the elite talents that come with the ship, are definitely worth adding to. Anyway, that's it for this one. I will see you in the next video.